Okay, so hello. So today we'll be talking about file path traversal. So let's understand first what it is, like what path traversal is. So the path file traversal, it is also called as a directory traversal, as most of us may know it by that name. So what it does is that it allows the attacker to access files or directory outside of the intended root directory by manipulating input paths. Now what does this means is that whenever you are hosting an application, the web document root directory is the one that displays all the pages or all the static pages that are present, static or dynamic pages that are present on in that particular folder, right? So these are the only files that should be accessed or should be accessible. But if the web application is vulnerable to path traversal, then what the attacker can do is that it can get out of the if this is the web directory, it can get out of this directory and access the other files or the other directories as well. So that is what it means. So it occurs when user supplied input such as files name or URLs is not properly sanitized or validated. That means that whenever any user is sending any say for example, if it's the input expects for a name and the user is supplying some any you can say any kind of payload or just trying to play with the input by just altering it. So if that is not properly sanitized or validated using certain logics, then it could lead to path traversal vulnerability, right? So enabling the use of special sequences like dot 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 to navigate up the directory tree. So this is the thing that is used mostly like maximum of the time to traverse the directory. So what this means this is that if I put two dot and forward slash, it means if I'm in this directory I can traverse to the upper directory. Okay, so that is what it means. So moving forward, let's move with the practical. So okay, so I have opened the lab now. So let's understand what this lab says. It is a file path traversal simple case. It's the initial lab for path traversal. So let's understand the task. This lab contains a path traversal vulnerability in the display of product images. Okay, we have to keep this mind. It is present in the display of the product images. To solve the lab, retrieve the contents of the etc password file. Now you may know this file is where the passwords of the Unix users are stored. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to find the traversal vulnerability which is present in the product images. Okay, and then we have to find the content of this of particular file. Okay, so what we will do, I've already started the lab. So I've started Burp Suite and I've started the Burp Suite's inbuilt browser where our lab is running. Okay, so as it says that it is present in the display of product images, what we will do, we will try to navigate to a particular product. Okay, fine. Now let's see, check the history. So here we can see it says product equal to 1. Okay, product id is equal to 1, and then we have images, logs and all this kind of information. So what I'll do, we will start intercepting the request. So we will just go back again to the main directory. I'll start intercepting the request. Okay, so I'll just click here. So we will forward the request. Again it says product ID 1, forward the request, forward it, forward. So as you can see, we can see something as get image file name equal to 66.jpg. Now understanding this thing, what we are doing is that we are going in some image directory, okay, and there is a parameter whose name is file name, okay. So this is the name of the parameter and it is fetching a value. Now if you understand this thing, instead of directly fetching the image inside a particular image directory, it is utilizing a variable to fetch the image, okay. So now this variable, that means it is using this value to maybe do a call to a particular another file where it is located, or if you can say maybe an example, it can be is using SQL or something, or just a simple logic. So this can be of use to us. So I'll send this to repeater, I'll forward the request, I'll forward. Okay, so the product requests are done. So if we check in the HTTP history, we can see that the product there, the product ID is there, and then shop, lab, and just the normal requests are there, okay. So what we will do, this request, okay, we'll send the request. It is giving us a 200, okay, and if you check the response, you can see this value, okay. So it's an encoded value of the image, okay. Now what we will do, imagine if it is fetching a image using a variable. So what we will try to do, we will try to check this file here. If you remember the question, let's open here. So it says etc password file, right? So what I'll do, I'll just copy this and check if I'm able to access it using this variable, okay. Now what we are doing, that if the value is present in the document root directory, as I mentioned in the PPT, if we try to access it this way, let's see if we are getting any response. So it says 400 bad request. Now what can be the thing is that we are trying to fetch a value etc password which is outside the what you can say, it is outside the root directory. So for example, what I'll do, I'll open a text editor and I'll explain, like, see, mostly whatever the content is stored, it's inside this directory, like the images, whatever is displayed, but this etc password is outside of that, like the outside that document root directory, correct. So what we have to do, we need to go outside this directory to fetch this value, right. So what we can do is that initially we'll try with just this value. Let's see if we can find anything. We are going 2 step back, bad request, okay. So what we will do, we will do 3 times. Now see, okay, yeah, so we were successfully able to retrieve the value. So what we had to do, we had to go 2 to 3 step back to get this value. If we were just typing the etc, we were not able to access it because it was just checking in the where www images folder, right. If we consider this as an example, so we had to go back to retrieve the value. So now we were able to get the value. So the question says that to solve the right, retrieve the contents of etc password file. So yeah, we were able to retrieve this value, right. So what we will do is that we will send the request in the original proxy itself. So what I'll do, I'll turn off the intercept, okay. Let's go back here. we will turn on the intercept. Okay, so we'll click on this, forward, forward, forward. Okay, so now here we will put that value. Just we will copy paste the same thing here. Copy, proxy, and I'll paste it right here. Okay, forward it now. Forward. Okay, so yeah, so as you can say, congratulations, you solved the lab and the lab is solved. So this is how we were able to exploit the path traversal vulnerability, right? Okay, so let's start with understanding the mitigation steps. Okay, so talking about mitigation, so the first point here we can see is that input validation and sanitization, correct? So you should always validate user input against, like using a white list of allowed characters or patterns. We should remove or reject part traversal sequences, like as we saw in the example, we are having dot dot forward slash, right? So this kind of input should be properly sanitized and removed, or it should be encoded with an escape characters or something like that. Okay, so this is how we can do the input validation and sanitization. Then the second point is least privilege principle. That means you should run the application with the minimum file system permission. So this would help us to run the services with the lowest privilege. For example, the web services like are run with the www data user. So similar kind of approach can be followed. And also isolating the sensitive directories, so this kind of directory should not be given accessible over the web application. Okay, then we should use secure APIs, like or we should avoid direct file system calls and all that. Okay, then we have web application firewall, so you should deploy rules in the web application firewall to detect and block certain kind of path traversal patterns in the request, like the one which I showed you in the example. Also there are other patterns, so we should use a WAF to filter out them. Okay, and the last one is regular audits and testing, so you should perform security scan, first testing and code reviews, so that you can identify the entry points at early stages, right? So these are the mitigation steps that you can follow. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.